Hey, this is Emil, and you landed on World Unmuted, where I cover news that I find interesting and that I also think are important to talk about. The Ukrainian armed forces launched rocket attacks using HIMARS on Russia's Kursk region. According to the Telegram channel MASH, one of the targets was a hospital building in the village of Tyotkino. The incident occurred shortly before the start of Russian-Ukrainian negotiations in Istanbul. Preliminary reports indicate no casualties, but the medical facility was completely destroyed. There was also shelling of a bridge over the Snagas River in the village of Korenevo. Sources say the bridge is expected to be restored quickly. In other news, Rodian Miroshnik, special envoy of Russia's foreign ministry, stated that the recent escalation at the border shows Kyiv's lack of interest in peace in an interview with TASS. He commented on Ukrainian attacks on Russia's Belgorod region, calling them a reflection of Ukraine's true attitude toward resolving the conflict. Zelensky talks about peace, but does everything to derail dialogue, Miroshnik said, adding that the attacks cast doubt on Kyiv's sincerity. Direct talks between Russia and Ukraine are set to resume in Istanbul on May 15th, after being halted in 2022. The Russian delegation will again be led by presidential aide Vladimir Zalinski. On the eve of the meeting, President Vladimir Putin held a preparatory session discussing both political and technical aspects. In other news, the Ukrainian armed forces carried out another strike on the city of Lysychansk in the Luhansk People's Republic. A Ukrainian drone hit a 9-story apartment building. According to the city administration, the incident occurred around 10 a.m. on May 15th. No casualties or fires were reported. In other news, Vyacheslav Tretyakov, head of the Kreminski district in the Luhansk People's Republic, reported that retreating Ukrainian forces are planting mines disguised as mushrooms. These devices have been found in forests and wooded areas. Tretyakov warned that the mines may appear harmless but are highly dangerous. Residents are urged to avoid forest areas and remain cautious. In other news, Vladimir Zalinski will determine his stance on talks with Russia after meeting with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, AFP reported, citing a source in Ukraine's delegation. The meeting is set for 1 p.m. on May 15th in Ankara. According to the Wall Street Journal, Kiev plans to propose a 30-day ceasefire with mechanisms for monitoring compliance. Moscow, however, insists on reviving the draft Istanbul Agreement from 2022. Earlier, Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha held meetings with US and French officials in Turkey. In other news, a senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader said Tehran is ready to immediately sign a nuclear deal with Donald Trump if all sanctions are lifted. Iran pledges to give up highly enriched uranium, allow inspectors, and limit enrichment to civilian use levels. But it refuses to end enrichment entirely, a key demand from Trump. Trump responded positively. I want them to become a great country, but without nuclear weapons. In other news, the Russian embassy in Cairo reported it's monitoring the situation involving mass detentions of Russian citizens in Egypt. Diplomats are assisting with their release and are in conflict with local authorities. The detention are linked to immigration checks and security measures. Cities of Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan have also been affected. Those not under suspicion are typically released after identification. In other news, President Donald Trump said that resolving the Ukraine conflict requires a personal meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Too many people are dying. Too many people are dying, he told reporters, adding, nothing will happen until we meet. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said no such meeting is currently being planned. In other news, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov criticized Vladimir Zelensky's communication style, saying diplomacy is about professional action, not shouting into a microphone. Speaking at a diplomatic club session, Lavrov called Zelensky's public demand for a meeting with Putin in Turkey pathetic. Earlier, President Putin proposed resuming direct talks with Ukraine in Istanbul on May 15th without preconditions. Peskov said Russia seeks a long-term resolution and that the elimination of the conflict's root causes. In other news, during a flight from Moscow to Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, a 35-year-old man from Samara attempted to open the aircraft door midair. He behaved aggressively and ignored crew warnings. Flight attendants restrained him and he was handed over to the police upon landing. And lastly, 2 members of an organized group were arrested in Russia's Stavropol region on suspicion of extortion. According to the MVD, they posed as police officers, falsely accused luxury car drivers of drug possession, planted fake drugs, and forced victims to withdraw money from ATMs. Police seized fake IDs, bank cards, and phones. Criminal cases have been opened and both suspects are in custody. And that was it, folks. I'll catch you on the flippity flip.